Hello everybody, my name is EK, welcome back to the channel. As you can see, we now have VSync off, we have motion blur off, field of view is at 90, and we are playing at 3440 by 1440 resolution. So, I'm going to be talking over this recording here. If you don't care for my consistent, ramblings as we're looking at footage, just feel free to mute the video. There's no other audio besides me talking, so if you want to just watch the rest in peace, mute the video, just watch the performance. So I'm going to run you through all the different settings. So we're going to go and start from the bottom at lowest, and we're going to work our way all the way up to medium. Sorry, all the way up, not to medium, all the way up to epic. And I just want to point out, I am running a 1080 Ti, I am running a 5800X 3D, 32 gigs of RAM, and as I mentioned before, we're playing on 3440 by 1440. So in the top left corner of the screen, you will see the performance chart. If you are not familiar with these, it is very simple. The top ones are the top one is the GPU usage. And you can clearly see that the GPU usage, the top one, is much higher than the CPU usage, which is the fourth one. Now, the CPU usage will go up as we're, trying to get more frames out. Because it's working on more frames, but because the CPU can't provide enough frames for this game to run very effectively on my GPU, the CPU is kind of irrelevant. So I am moving to medium here. Very quickly, I didn't want to stick to lowest for too long. Nobody's going to want to play at lowest, so I just want to quickly showcase it and move on immediately to the next setting. So you can see we're sitting at roughly 60 FPS right now, which I consider for this kind of game to be very much playable. And you can clearly see that we are consistently sitting at the 99% usage mark for my 1080 Ti. So what this means is that my CPU is trying its very best to, push the draw calls out for my GPU, and my GPU is like, man, I'm working as hard as I can. And generally, this is what you want to be. You generally do want your GPU to be the bottleneck, because that means that your GPU is pushing as many frames as it can possibly push. And you will see this throughout the entire video. The entire video will just be my GPU trying to push as many frames as it can. And as we're moving up in settings, you will also see that my GPU is going to start pushing less and less frames. Fortunately, though, the impact of the higher settings doesn't feel as high as you would think. So the jump from the lower setting to this setting was roughly like a 40, a 30 FPS drop, kind of depending on what point of the game you're looking at. We are going to be moving up into the higher settings, and fortunately, I can already give you a bit of a spoiler. The performance drop-off as we're moving into higher graphical fidelity is not as noticeable in the performance, so that's nice. And one particular reason why I wanted to showcase my 1080 Ti is because, back when I bought it, I was like, oh, I have the highest end GPU on the market, pretty much. Well, I mean, there was the Titan, but nobody buys a Titan to play games. That's kind of like, hey, I have too much money. So, I bought a 1080 Ti, and for years now, I have kind of been in this, elitist, hey, I have the best in the world, and I want to keep on playing stuff at the maximum settings. Obviously, we have now had the 2000 series, the 3000 series, the 4000 series. We have had so many GPU generations come. They have both been getting a lot stronger in terms of just the raw computing performance. We've had the ray tracing stuff, we have all those kind of things. But one very important thing that this game does support, which I cannot take advantage of, is DLSS. And if you are unfamiliar with this process, simply put, it means you have the ability, if you have a GPU with DLSS on it, you can render the game at a lower resolution, and the game will then upscale for you to a higher resolution. And it does this in such an incredibly intelligent way. Also, yeah, don't look at my catching, like my PAL is just one-shotting everything, which is very unfortunate. But it does this in such an intelligent and good way that you can barely tell. You would have to compare images side by side, and even then, maybe you could tell that one is upscaled, one isn't. But we have moved far away from this, checkerboard, PlayStation 4, 4K upscaling. No, this is proper upscaling where I would play with DLSS, wow, I can't speak anymore, DLSS on at all times, because, I would value the literal multiplication of my performance by like 2, 3, 4, depending on the game. Much more than, oh, maybe I can see, a weird pixel or something. So this game does support that, and unfortunately my GPU doesn't support it. So, if you have a 3070, if you have a 4080, if you have anything that is, for the past couple of years, just enable DLSS and you will be perfectly fine, and your frames probably are not anywhere near the 60s. You're probably pushing like 200-300, because first of all, you have more basic computing power, but also, your software applications, your DLSS ability to use that is just so much better, and I would highly recommend enabling that. But that is that is particularly the reason why I wanted to do this video about my 1080 Ti, because there are still, according to Steam charts, there are still a lot of people who are running 1060s, 1070s, 1080s, and I mean, 1080 Ti it was such an incredible monster when it launched, and I'm sure Nvidia's like, we launched too good of a product. Like, it was so good for its price that people like me are like, I want to upgrade, but I haven't really felt a desire. And well, I mean, I felt a desire, but I haven't felt a need to upgrade. And I'm getting to that point now where I'm like, my 1080 Ti, even though it's still good, I can still play all the newest games at, medium to sometimes high settings on acceptable frame rates. But as you can see here, we are now on, I think we swapped to highest. I can't remember exactly. You will see in the video. But we are now setting in the high 40s to the low 50s. Which obviously, it's very much playable, but it's not optimal. And personally, I have been playing on medium for my entire playthrough, which gives me roughly a 60 FPS mark, but also keeps the graphical fidelity to be okay. This game isn't particularly fast-paced, so playing at roughly 60 FPS for me feels okay. Would I love playing at 100 plus? For sure. But unfortunately, I just don't have that ability anymore. Also, this lift monk is going to just keep running away from me. So at some point, I'm going to just shoot it in the ass because I'm done with its bullshit. And I'm moving on to the next one because I can't have a disobedient lift monk like that in my party. Anyway, that is pretty much all I really feel like I need to talk about here. Because, as you see on the screen, I wouldn't really look at the minimum FPS too much because that always goes to 1 when I'm doing a recording. It probably has a slight hiccup when it's starting or something. And, also we're moving to highest here, or sorry, epic here. And one thing to note is it does keep saying a restart is required for some of these settings to apply. So do keep in mind that some settings may not apply immediately, and your performance may vary if you relaunch the game in its entirety. I didn't want to go through the hassle of restarting the game and restarting the recording every single time that I was going to change settings. But do keep in mind that the performance difference for some stuff might be bigger just because some settings might not properly change whenever you are swapping settings, while you haven't relaunched the game. But this isn't really to give you exact numbers, because nobody is running my exact setup probably. It's kind of to give you a rough idea, hey, what is the performance difference? And also do keep in mind, by the way, my resolution is ultra wide. So you might want to check, I don't know what the ratio is from ultra wide exactly to 16:9 4040p, but there's probably a conversion, and I might put it on the screen if I can remember. So you could kind of add a certain amount of percentages to your frames if there is linear scaling like that. I don't know exactly how that works in this particular game, but keep in mind that my 1440p performance is a bit lower because I have to render an ultra-wide resolution as opposed to the regular 16:9, so 2560 by 1440 resolution that most people are playing on when they're talking about 1440p gaming. So, I have discussed everything that I wanted to discuss. You can look at the stuff on the screen as much as you want. If you have any questions, please do let me know. And yeah, I'm going to just run the footage until the end. I think we're almost there as well. So have a nice day, guys. And yeah, I'll see you around. I'm going to get back into this game, man. Get my slaves back to work because they've been slacking.